Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, the Dr. Contrast Live. I hope all is well with everybody, and thank you for joining in today. And Shadow, good to have you on board, and I know you're in a meeting, but thanks so much for tuning in here. Pardon me, I just thought I'd take a moment here and put a little bit of an overview on today's stream. And I think interesting, I've had a couple of, over the last few weeks, a lot of requests on architecture, interior space design, architectural interior space sketch rendering, and some landscape work. So I thought I'd just pull out the portfolio today and some of the work I've done most recently with a lot of firms across the country and overseas, and have you look at some of the work we've done and just a variety of techniques and methods, ballpoint pen, pastel marker, a little bit of Canson paper, just a whole variety of things, newsprint, just to look at some of the sequential work that hopefully will help you individuals out who are in the realm of architectural design, whether it's interior space, architecture, exterior, or landscape work. But I also think too it's important, before we show you some of the work here, just point out a very interesting theme that I think that a lot of us, and I say this with respect, so don't misunderstand the context here, that we kind of take for granted, and that is the whole idea of understanding perspective. If you notice here, I just thought I'd start with this little thumbnail sketch here that's really, to me, very critical in terms of everything you'll see today from my work. That's pretty limited. There's a big scope of things, but just a certain envelope of work to be done. It all generates itself from an understanding of perspective. I know it's a really evil word in a lot of vocabularies, but if you understand how space and spatial function works, it makes our life so much easier to work with in terms of getting the scale properly corrected, getting elements of a theme, character, personality to the sketch, assigning a measurement system. All these things are involved in the perspective cycle of life, and I think that's the thing that I really am very, very adamant about getting things done. I spoke to a group recently here about the power of perspective, and I simply put it like this: perspective is the genesis of illustration. You understand it, you begin to work with it, it works back with you, and all of a sudden it opens up and it teaches you how to cheat well. And that's a horrible thing to say, I know, but my point is, the more you understand the rules, the more you can take advantage of the rules and begin to move them in your direction and make some adjustments that you need to when you go through the process. But you have to know the purpose and the function first. So let's just go through it real quickly here. This is a two-point study. Notice leading edge, central vanishing point where we're standing, developing a special vanishing point that gives you a sense of scale. This could be a 4-foot element that goes back 16 feet. It could be 100 feet each. It could be a 400-foot building, and you can add to scale to that. And these are the things that I think are critical in the two-point setup. And again, same with the one-point process. Same situation. You can use this as a very simple horizon line down. You put that first facing plane in, and then you begin to count back in terms of what the elements do. And I think that the most important thing, I'll end it with this, and I think the one thing we need to get across, and every time we go through a sketch rendering process or an ideation cycle or getting a thumbnail sketches down, remember these definitions carefully. One-point perspective, by definition, is not that it has a single vanishing point. That's an aspect of it. By definition, one-point perspective is simply this: when the object or object you're looking at, one of the faces is parallel to your eyes. As long as this face right here, that facing plane, is parallel to me, that's a one-point perspective. That's what constitutes a good definition for one point. When you go to two-point perspective, then it's a little bit of a different matter. It gets a little bit more complicated, but nonetheless, very same theme, and results come about as a result of knowing it. By definition, two-point perspective is when the object or the objects you're looking at are at an angle to you on the picture plane. So you've just rotated the view to get a leading edge as opposed to a facing plane. So let's go through these sketches here, and we'll show you how we go through the process. But this, I thought it was important to start here to let you know that it doesn't come about by circumstance or by guesswork. A lot of hard work behind the scenes and understanding perspective and working through the element of making mistakes and allowing the miracles to come forward. So this is where we're going to start here today. Just there, and I'm going to open up with a couple little thumbnail sketches here. These are little, each one has a certain assignment to it. And by the way, too, when I go through the process, I work with everything from developers to architectural firms, interior space firms, landscape firms. They'll come to me and look for design inspiration, or they've got a project they're working on and they want me to develop some ideas for them. So this is a product which you'll see today, a product of all that, a little bit of that work that's been done over the past 2 to 3 years in putting those pieces together. This is for an entry development piece in, Indian Lake, Indiana. They wanted a certain silo look and a brick wall, stone rather, a little bit of a plan view study. This is just fast little ballpoint pen sketches on putting together a basic theme for that entryway piece. So that's where that started. Just again, very rapid. I think one of these sketches we look at them maybe 5 to 10 minutes each. at best. Just kind of flying through the process of getting an elevation down into a plan view, and then what that little detail looks like in perspective with the signage and so forth, to give it more of a country character, which is what they were after. So there's one aspect of it. Let's move along here. There's one. There's another theme. They're looking at some of the gateway pieces and some of the areas within the community itself. And medallion at the estates, for example, within this contrast. Hey, hello, I'm Brad. How are you? Quant, how you doing? Just found you on TV, YouTube. Great fun. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for joining forces here, Quant. Really appreciate you joining forces here. Just a little bit of an overview. This is more of an architectural look and some interior space interior space design, landscape architecture, exterior, and some landscape work. And I just started out with a little bit of an explanation of perspective. I hope I'm going to go back and repeat myself. We started here, 2-point, 1-point perspective. All these things you're going to look at here are a product of understanding. I'll come back and look at that a little bit later. Super. So again, thanks so much, Quants, for joining me. Nice to have you on board. So I hope this is going to help to you. Started out with a little ballpoint pen sketch for an entryway feature for a development in Indian Lake, Indiana. Working with a developer in this case, looking for themes about how to set up the program for the actual development itself. Little thumbnail sketch, phase 2. Inside the development itself, maybe some little aspects of some certain areas within the area, and looking at fencing, some landscaping work around it, and a little bit of a little impediment detail, and a signage study for the estates at Medallion within Indian Lake in Indiana. Another little study here. This is a bit of a different program here. This is for Hillsdale up in northern Michigan, and it's just an interesting, again, entryway study for a really interesting development. There's a lot of contour, a lot of topo changes within the area, but they wanted something very substantial, almost cathedral, also colonial-like, to come on board with this. So again, a little perspective study of what this theme looks like. This is the plan view setup, and what it looks like, for example, in perspective. Again, a real quick ballpoint pen sketch, all freehand. Again, duration of time about 5 to 10 minutes, and just feed them out. And by the way, too, everything you see here, when I finish a series of sketches, I'll scan them and ship them out to the client, and then go back and forth with conversation and adjustments and the typical process of putting the program together. So there's another little study, same process again. Just another variation on the theme. I don't know if we can get them side by side here. Let's see if we can kind of fit them in. I don't know if we will, but pretty close, one against the other. So this is where it started, and let's kind of moving back in here, get these out of the way. And then another little bit of a taller look to it. Notice the first sketch was a little bit of a low profile colonial pillar look. This is more of like a bell tower, again with a lot of detail work on the top, a lot of stone work, and then down at the base, a little bit of landscaping and a stone wall, and a little bit of signage to kind of theme it off there. So that was another aspect of that little sketch. And then moving along here, this is a part of that same process at Indian Lake again, looking at a little like a green space or a silent, a restful place. It's a little bit of an overhead perspective. Again, getting a pencil sketch down, then just doing an ink. This is ballpoint. This is a Copic pen study. Getting a little bit of texture. You notice that little wandering form. This is where the hardscape would be. Some benching areas and a gazebo type over some trellis systems over the top of that piece, and coming back in and doing a little bit of landscape. So you enter in, out, and out again, but a little bit of a peaceful area. And again, noticing the texture changes. This is a good exercise in sketch rendering and just getting textures down in black and white. And I'm a huge believer you can handle a good process in black and white and get some surface changes. Notice a lot of foliage, very tight looking foliage back in the stone. Those variations in theme make a huge difference in learning how to put together first a value study, then into a nice color study, and it really works well. So one harmonizes or complements the other. So again, that's part of that same development. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. This goes back to Bowling Green, a little bit of landscape. They were doing a cityscape retrofit, very massive program, and what they wanted to do was put together some newspaper boxes and some little vignette areas here, and then some quiet city green space areas or restful areas with lighting, a little bit of fencing around it to kind of give it some character. But this is a part of a very massive streetscape piece that we did, everything from walking or restful areas, restaurateurs, storefront facade changes. I mean, it was a massive program of Bowling Green. It went out very well, and in fact, I'm still doing some work up there, hopefully picking up maybe mid-year, go back up with another program. They invited me to come back, maybe hopefully work with them on that. So there's a little, and then this is the, let's see if we can do this. Here's the black and white. that's the black and white study. Let's see if I can get these organized here. Black and white study, the little theme sketch sent to them. They got the approval. They came back and did a little bit of color study. That's what it looks like when you put a little bit of wash to it. Again, stone and some brick patterning, and these little service areas here. And again, looking at decorative fencing, a little bit of foliage in the light post series, and just, again, real fast little color studies to kind of reprove or infatuate, or pardon me, enhance the black and white studies. So the theme sketches, and this is, again, this goes, I think it's down in West Virginia, in Morgantown. Again, another streetscape where they looked at storefront changing, major boulevard coming in with a little boulevard, and in parking areas, seating space, and notice the texture changes. For example, in this boulevard would have a little bit of detail. It was elevated, and notice a vehicle to give it some scale, signage, and some plantings along the center of the piece to put it all together. So there it is. That's a little. This is a red pencil sketch. I mean, I change medium all the time. I love to change media, for example, from pastel to marker to pen, the pencil, you name it. It's just interesting, and can sign paper surfaces as well, just to kind of challenge, keep things active. But these are very rapid sketches to kind of put themes down. So this is one approach in that in Morgantown. There's another little variation, same overall space, but looking at maybe archways as you come into the space itself, as you leave. Some little variations on theme of what that archway might look like, powdered metals and cast iron blacks and so forth. Again, notice a little bit of difference of a streetscape down the center of the boulevard. And again, some of the plantings around it. So again, same variation on theme. This is for a group, a gang. We did some streetscape work for Shem Overlook Bridge in South Carolina. They came to me and asked me they were doing this whole waterfront retrofitting piece, and they needed some concept work on what the pavilion might look like on the actual lakefront or riverfront. So it was kind of a neat little deal to put together little thumbnail sketches. I did a series of pencil sketches here, which I eliminated to kind of save time, and little pencil sketches to put them all together. And then we sent them down and got approval on the theme, and off we went to the build system. And this was phase one sketch. There's another look at it, another little view coming out from the other end. This sketch, for example, was at the southern end of the lake as you depart, and this is where you came in, excuse me, again, as you enter. So a little bit of the fishing villages and some of the storefronts on the lake itself, the waterfront, and a little bit larger area for seating and viewing areas as they walk across that bridge or cross over on the streetscape itself. So that was that. This is some interesting little changing gears here, little quick, boy, I'm sorry for my voice here. Some very quick little interface sketches. This is for a theme, a very organic theme from a Maserati dealership we did years ago in New Jersey, looking at different ceiling patterns, rotunda areas for the product display and the like. And this was all part of that. Some real quick little theme sketches done, in this case, on just with Prismacolor pencil. And drawings are so awesome, he can't even speak. Yeah, don't I wish that were the truth? Boy, I'm sorry, I just all of a sudden caught this. I can't swallow it, and so we can get this cleared up. Pardon me if I keep clearing my throat here. But again, real fast little pencil sketches, working with the manager of the Maserati dealerships and going back and forth with what kind of flavor they wanted. They were interesting because they didn't want the typical walls and the square systems. Wanted a little more organic with a lot of interfacing in here. Hey, Quant just subscribed. Hey, thanks very much, Quant. It's great to have you on board. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying this as much as I'm going through it here. So again, it's really interesting to me. To me, architecture and interior space and exterior design and landscape is a tremendous challenge. My background, I came out of automotive systems in Detroit at General Motors, but I was well trained by great people over the years to do architecture and all kinds of different things with it. It's just really interesting. I've always enjoyed it. Architecture has always been a great challenge because it's such a flexible medium to work with, and it's so interesting with the materials and the technologies that are going on now, and just phenomenal stuff. I'm still active in the system, still do a lot of work, hopefully, and looking forward to some things here. Let's back to the sketches. Real fast pencil sketches for the Maserati dealership. This is done, again, a little office complex for a program here in Columbus called Escape Enterprises, looking at new office space, getting into some walkways, a lot of modular pieces on the wall to put a product display, etc. Interesting Thank you very much. Let's see. Thank you. It's question or shadow. Me now. Yeah, especially it's really amazing. The materials are phenomenal. So again, it's a real fast. These sketches you're looking at here. These when I work with Prismacolor and newsprint, I don't spend, and I'm saying this very sincerely, I don't spend any more than 3 to 5 minutes on a sketch. I just lay out the perspective, put in some tone, and get out of it, and just send it off to the client base to see what they're going to deal with and how they handle it. Again, office space for them. This is for an internet firm in Cincinnati, Ohio, where they want a really large, huge lean-back wall with a lot of digital interface on it as you walk into this place, carpeted into a hardscape, and a lot of, again, notice back as we're a second-story piece, a lot of glass, a little bit of a different ceiling graphic, and also on the side walls, a lot of product display that what they do. But this is a real feature here. This was interactive display when you walk in, and you see an awful lot of interface in terms of high explosive, almost like a mirage kind of a system or a montage of sketches and the work that they do. So that was that guy. And we'll go on here. The last one was a very simple, same theme. These are done for the same office complex. Let's move them side by side here. The one was a little more traditional. And this one was a lot more cylindrical, a lot rounder, same kind of approach. This is a very large kiosk area here that has a lot of interface in it. And back in there is the same kind of visualization effect that they had on the interface on the wall as you walked into the entryway of the building itself. So let's move along here. Hope this is helpful here. Any questions so far, gang? Making sense? All right, let's switch gears here. This is a project that I thought was a lot of fun. It's a ballpoint pen sketch. This started out working with the Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor, the local community area here, in the Civic Center. They were putting a new bicycle bridge in the city of Ann Arbor that connected some of the bike paths to go all the way up into the northern Upper Peninsula area. So I started with this group, and they wanted to do some basic theme sketches. They weren't quite sure how they wanted to handle it. It was a massive operation because they had to dig out some of the areas to get the tunnel to go through. And also, what was the most significant part of the whole process was that the topo fall from the highway up on top to get down to this bridge was about an 80 to 90 foot drop, a very meandering set of curves or bicycle path to get into this thing, but they wanted to get an interesting character set up for the actual facade of the bridge. So they had wing walls, materials and the like, and some of these ballpoint pen sketches, I started off with a lot of stone and the Corten behind it. These Corten panels had different features in it, maybe powder coated trees or simulated lighting and the like. This is an elevation study of what that entry would look like going into the tunnel itself. Again, Corten down below, stone, a lot of landscape over the top of the bridge, and then some signage over the center of the piece. So this is where I started, again, and then from the same theme here, opened that up a little bit, and put a little bit of a color study together. We can't get them on the same screen here. Let me get this out of the way, pardon me. Dang, we just organize this stuff, keep it nice and neat. There we are. So from that sketch you just looked at, I went back in again and opened up the view a little bit and showed them what that might look like coming in the entry area. And then with the wing wall is coming out and the plan view had a lot of experience to it. And then these little Corten pieces looking like maybe we could cut out pieces or do a layered piece of Corten where you put one on top of the other. And you'd have this like a little simulated tree system, more of a natural platform coming into this bike path area. They want a lot of hardscape because of the maintenance, obviously. And then again, this is a little lighting standard where you come through like a light baluster, where you come through the whole process. These little guys would kind of go through the actual tunnel itself. So that was part of that little theme, no sketch. And then a little bit of a detail on the same basic theme going through the tunnel itself. A lot of stone, painted graphics, and again, Corten against the sidewalls. Again, a little bit of view when you're coming through the tunnel, what that might look like as you enter out and come back through the other side. So, Doc, when you are doing these initial sketches, I see you use everything from pen, pencil, marker. Is there a reason for that? Like, is there a certain theme of what you are sketching that determines it, or do you just grab something? No, I think that's a great question, Shadow. It's not a matter of happenstance. I'll go through ballpoint or pencil sketches because of the instantaneousness or the rapidity of putting together a theme. Sometimes it's just pure line weight studies, but oftentimes I'll go back and finish renderings, everything from watercolor to marker, pastel, Prismacolor pencil. So there's method behind the madness. I think if there's a certain look that the client's after, I'll kind of take, maybe the client might like more marker sketches and some might more watercolor. It's very difficult to predict that. But it's a great question, but there's not really something that, it's not something that I just kind of take lightly. I really spend a lot of time looking at the assignment and then what's going to fit that assignment best, and then begin to develop the sketches, and then begin to go from pure pencil sketch, like a lead pencil, into a Prisma sketch, into a little, maybe a pen study, and into a value study, and a finished piece. Yeah, it is interesting. It changes all the time, but I'm very conscious more of what like I worked with you on the battle yacht. We started out with some pencil sketches, went into a ballpoint pen, did a quarter rough, then did a full size piece, and went into a full media system. So there's always a method behind it all. And I think the method that I'm trying to get across, so those of you who are students, for example, are practicing in the profession now, I think it's great to show what your flexibility is from basic pen sketches or ideation cycles into finished rendering work. So the scope of your work and the scale of your work is really acceptable, and they don't pin you down to one look. That, to me, is dangerous. If you're only good at one medium, that's a very precarious place to find yourself in. And I think the thing that's really interesting was I just really wish the fact that whole process, what people don't understand, the more flexible you are with media systems, the more marketable you are. And I can say this, and I'll take this in the right context here. I think that's kept me alive and marketable over the years. I vary the theme. You'll see it in today's the scope of services that I'm going to show you. You'll see a lot of different stuff that I'm working with, and I do that to keep myself fresh and alive, hopefully. And my sketches, a lot of spirit in them. I just don't want to fall in love with one approach. I've never been a believer in that. So anyway, back to this guy. Oh, I've got a question. I'm a tech geek. Yeah, no, you're not a tech geek. You're a tech genius, knowing how to draw. And I do. I tell you, that battle yacht was a fun project, man. We did some bad, serious damage with that thing. I'm going to go back in and show the progress of that in some later streams. Anyway, back to this again. A little bit of landscape work. Here's another interesting facet. This is what I was referring to here, gang. I'll start out, for example, with a client. Well, what's the overall character? What are you looking for? What's the aspect that you're after? That's me. I'm a very technical architect, but I need to brush up in sketching. That's no problem, Quants. I mean, you're in an actual, very terrific, as far as I'm concerned, a great profession. And I would really encourage you to stay with me here. And if you want to follow some of I'll go through a variety of different things. For example, this is an overview, but maybe in a couple of streams out, I'll start doing some sketch rendering work. Just interesting to hear you state the fact that your sketching needs to be brushed up. And I think that'll be a great marketing tool for you. I work with a great architect. Several of them, Frank Gehry, George Aycock, a lot of interesting people over the years, and the individuals that had the most impact in their profession are people who could draw. Now, Frank Gehry couldn't draw. He was a realist, a very abstract guy who he could visualize certain things, but he couldn't draw. I did a lot of work with Frank Gehry at the law school up in Cleveland, and some other Balboa, some of the California pieces he did. Just did not know how to draw at all. I'm not criticizing him. But on the other hand, George Aycock was an absolute master of sketch rendering stuff. Just really absolutely awesome. I mean, the guy could sit down and do drawings, and his business flourished as a result of that. So I think, Quants, hear me well. We're going to work with you to get that sketch rendering stuff up. And by the way, too, I'll make the announcement at the end of the program here. But just keep cranking away at it. And I would encourage you more than anything else. If you go through the process of drawing and sketch rendering skills, if you make mistakes, don't worry about it. That's where the miracles come. We'll go through that process if you stay with me as we go from stream to stream to stream. So again, this is where it started out. This is what the plan view looked like. You're coming on this very long, up maybe about right up through here is an 80-foot drop down to this entryway into this tunnel. This is a plan view look of the wing walls, some of the hardscape, and then the entryway we went to, and some of the contour around it. So I started here with a series of little plan view sketches, then switched gears to, all right, there's a little detail in line drawing form, what that coming into the tunnel might look like. For example, the stone, the signage, some of the core tenon around it, and some of the panel walls, and the little elevation section of what that section, that wall piece would look like. From that into a color study. Getting into a little theme again, Michael, back to you, Shadow, about the whole idea of getting a pencil sketch down, then switching gears and using marker pastel. This is a combination of a lot of things. Spilled coffee, who knows? But from that theme sketch, and this is how we think our way through the process. And then once it's settled in, the client likes to look, you go back in and deliver a series of sketches. You'll see these are all delivered en masse. I did them as a gang of maybe 30, 40, then sent them out to the client and got them approved. So this sketch one. And again, these are little detail pieces of what that core tenon might look like. a lot of sculptural, you'll see in the final render here, a lot of sculptural pieces, spitified, yeah, that's right, spilled copy. You'll see a lot of contour changes and contour in this whole topo piece for this bike path. So they wanted Cor-Ten, and you can actually form that and use that as a bolster against a landscape to reinforce it and so forth, but they wanted pattern into it. So there's a line study, then there's a variation on theme of what it might look like when you transfer that into a color study. This is a Cor-Ten, which is a very interesting steel panel rusted piece. You could actually cut template and paint it and put on, use a system of what I refer to as what again, clad forming, and also vapor plating and so forth, and get that little section detail where you build the wall itself to support the piece, and then lean the Cor-Ten back on it. And that's what it might look like when you come around the bend from this upper elevation stop. So that was a study there. Another little piece here. Once that's established, I'll go back in and do a little line study. There's the actual support column. There's the first layer of Cor-Ten, and then the second layer of Cor-Ten, which is powder coated and placed on top of that. And when it's all said and done and put together, it gives you, that look. So there's the base, there's the landscape, there's the actual support wall, the paint system behind it, then the actual Cor-Ten laying on top of that to give you the effect of this very undulating series of walls as you come into this bike path. So that's that guy. Last but not least, just some little sketches on themes on how to put together some of those pieces in Cor-Ten and what they might look like. Just really fast, very sculptural looks. And they're coming 8-foot panels, so each one of these guys are like this they're probably about 65 feet or so. So there's a pencil sketch of that, and what it might look like when you go to color. Some overlap to give it some depth, some stone, some natural pieces around it to get it to come together for you. And last but not least, there's a little detail looking at this thing coming right at you. It's coming into the tunnel itself. Little pencil sketch, get a little bit of the Cor-Ten, the overall facing wall with a stone in it, and then that's it. And then here's what it might look like when you put it all together. Again, notice pattern changes. This is a great technique. I've learned to use it, and it's really it's an automotive discipline sketch rendering technique, but it works in every area: product, architecture, interior space. This is all dry pastel down here. You just wipe it in and erase it out, and we'll show you that later on. Quants, if you go through this thing with me, we'll show you how that all operates. A little bit of marker, a little bit of pencil, dry pastel, just a whole bunch of stuff. Again, back to Shadow's question earlier about what's the selection, how do you make the selection process work? It starts out always with a good thinking sketch, a good ideation sketch, and you take it from the stages through. So you train your client about your skill set, and then all of a sudden your credibility just goes through the roof. There's a lot of confidence as a result of that. So let me go switch gears here for a moment, and we'll continue on with this bike path piece. I just want to show you some wrap-up pieces here along the way, and it begins to look like this. So the last few here were this. This is a big overall sketch of what that piece looked like. This is that whole, once all those little pieces are put together, this is a view looking at about maybe 80 feet up. This road comes up and winds up to about an 80-foot upper piece, comes into the actual tunnel itself. These are the wing walls that we talked about. A lot of topo here. The drop-off was incredible, maybe about 30 degrees. A lot of sculptural, a lot of ins and outs and undulations in the landform itself. So this is a line drawing that was set up just to kind of put the hardscape in place, some of the stonework and some of the path work, put that in place. And then some of the detail work. So that line drawing did its job for us. Then it went from that into this. There was a first color study, and they wanted more of a Cor-Ten piece, a lot of sculpture. Notice how look how that whole wall just comes around this whole area, just kind of banks away from you and comes down to this valley, the bike path itself, into the tunnel. There's a little detail in the Cor-Ten and some of the actual, this is actually scored cement or concrete down to Cor-Ten, and the tiling around the room. No, just that Cor-Ten, that clad forming piece we were telling you about, and powder coating. And you wanted a little bit more of the Cor-Ten in here, and also some natural stones and some grasses and the like. So that was the first sketch that they did. Then they pulled back because of some cost issues, and decided, well, let's kind of pull back a little bit and go to this. Notice we pulled away some of the actual wing walls going into the actual piece itself, and then we went much simpler into the hardscape here. We did introduce some of the Cor-Ten panels. Some of these came back. Let me bring the sketch back. Some of these pieces, for example, some of these little elements of Cor-Ten undulating form walls were brought back in as a backdrop in there, but not nearly as many. And then notice we dropped out a lot of the stuff around it. So that was a final sketch that was sent up to the Ann Arbor group and the Ypsilanti group, and to my knowledge, it's been built. I'm going to hopefully I'll let it go back up there someday, take some photographs of it, so you can see the final piece. But that's a pretty long story about where we are with that whole line of thinking. So that goes there. Don't let pull these back. Now let's keep going here. There's some other things I brought along for you to look at here. Pardon me as I got out of the film thing. Let's go back in and get some of these guys. This is some fun stuff. This is where I started here. You'll love this. This is a switching gears. This is called, these are Canson rapid sketches for some environmental studies, so some domicile residences from Star Citizen. Shadow knows about this stuff. We do a whole bunch of this thing with some of the Star Citizen gang, and really interesting little thumbnail sketches on environments. And these are nothing more than space stations. That's exactly right there, Shadow. These are nothing more than just rapid pencil sketches, a little bit of marker, and that's it. There's no pastel in this at all. These are just theme, really quick theme. Yeah, hey, Quan's it is very artistic, and I think. Again, Quants, maybe for your benefit here, and don't misunderstand the context, so often we get hung up on the discipline of the processes we're involved in professionally. For example, the structure is so solid, we begin to really lose sight of the salvation of being much more creative, much more lucid. And I think over the years, I've noticed a lot of my architectural work has really been well received because there's a fine art element to it. And it is a very artistic approach to it. So, but it has a design base, but it has a fine arts look to it. And I think that's a great combination to work with. Again, it keeps you fresh. These are really quick little thumbnail sketches. Some just shape and empathy, just exploring certain looks. These were intended to be mountaintop observation towers, so to speak. There's sketch one. And a couple more here, a little bit more vertical, a little more geometric, but a little more complicated, and something here that's a little more form shape. That was done. Then a little family of forms are just getting using just basic geometric solids, some spheres and some ovoids, and again back to ovoids again, just variations on theme. But again, nothing more than just pencil, Prismacolor pencil. I think it was sky blue, white, and a little bit of gray tone in the marker to kind of tone back some of the surfaces. But that was about it right there. So that did it. That was it. So that's another little family of shapes here. Rapid sketch work for some architectural studies. Turning page here. This is a real line study for a golf course in Marion, Indiana. So this was done years back. They had the land all set, very sculptural looking piece of work. Entryway was here, some housing area outside, just behind that was some entryway, some housing back in through here. Big, huge site plan. So my task was to take the site plan and begin to zero in on what this golf course might look like. And then this is the overall, one of the final line drawings before we went to a final color study, which is this guy right here. Back from there's the final color study from that line drawing. Again, a little bit of path. I use a very little marker on this, a little bit maybe in the glass. And then some, but this is all Prismacolor pencil. Just a real nice little quaint sketch to get that job put together, and the overall site plan of what the course might look like. And here's another little line study. For example, this is for Wright State University, some of the campus residential. This is, I think, the president's residence. Just a line drawing study first. That went from this one into this, from the line study into a final color study. This is presented to the actual management or the administration, people at Wright State, and off it went. And they built it, and off we go. So that was, again, notice the pattern here. Line studies, little sketches, and sending them back and forth, communicating with your client, and making sure that things are on the up and up, and they're happy with the progress. It also speaks well of your credibility, too, and your responsibility. So oftentimes we get programs and people come in, for example, and get a job and they'll let it lax and they won't show up and they won't do this or that. I mean, that's a sad set of circumstances. I've always been trained to think in terms of, to me, it's an honor to work with people. It's a privilege. So when I'm asked to do something, I respond right away. If you want to ask Shadow on that one, I just respond like mad. I just spit them out and have a lot of fun with it and keep the lines of communication open. I think that's absolutely incredible to do so, and it's a reasonable service. I've always respected the fact that people have chosen me to work with, and I'm grateful for that, and I just don't ever want to lose that sight of that. Here we go. So there's the final study on that, the president's residence. Just a little line study here, a little color study done for a church system here in Columbus. This was already established. This building, the main structure was here. This little wing was already established, but they wanted to add a gymnasium or an activity center to the actual cap itself. So this is a little quick theme sketch we used to make a presentation to the Board of Governors, and they built the system, and that was it. So a little theme sketch. This is kind of fun. This goes back to Quants, if you're still with us. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. These are little thumbnail sketches for a train station or high-speed train station in Europe that we did. Interesting things here. These are little thumbnail vignettes on like station concept, an atrium tower concept, another atrium tower. Open space, for example, the port concourse. Then the actual station 7 station, the arrival station, and again this concourse, this welcoming area in the center of the whole piece. These are the theme sketches I started with, and then various variations on theme, a lot of different areas, and how to work through the sketch rendering process and get some things done. This is probably one of maybe 10 pages of just theme sketches going through the process of looking for ideas. And once that's established, I took one, this is one of several, where I actually did a little bit of a theme sketch of what that tower might look like. Here's the train coming in, here's a walkway into the actual resting area, open area portion of it, of the actual station itself. And then again, a little elevation study of what that might look like relative to scale inside the actual facility itself. So that's another variation in their theme here. This is a streetscape study for a town up in Stratford, up in Ohio, northern part of Ohio, showing a little bit of a storefront and retro piece fit, and then a little bit of change of canopy graphics on the actual storefront itself. A little really fast sketch. Let me move that down. Is that better? A little sketch rendering piece there to kind of get that theme together. This is a detail of one of the actual storefront areas within that area. And then this is the overall of that streetscape itself. Again, almost like a Frank Lloyd or a Franklin Wright look to it, or a Rockefeller look, where it's all of this old-fashioned storefronts. I added new canopies, new stone, a park area up front, a huge facelift, and putting the pieces together. And that was it. The final sketch sent to them for approval, and that was constructed and built. So that was a good, healthy process to work on. This is a little theme sketch for, it's funny, someone comes in, somebody heard about my work. Hilliard Fire Department called me about 2 years ago and said, hey, we would love to do this Christmas card, but we've got a new fire station. Would you, somebody told them about my name, and I said, I'd love to do a little Christmas piece for you guys, a Christmas card. So this is their new fire station with all the bays in it, and then the new pillar signage at Fire Station 07. Just put together a little theme sketch for them, and they turned it into a Christmas card and sent it out. It was really kind of neat. Again, notice again how the variety changes. It doesn't have to be big time projects, little ones and big ones. It doesn't matter to me. The scale doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is just doing a lot of neat variety work and just learning things as I've gone. I've learned so much more as a result of being involved in architecture and interior space work. It's just been terrific. So very, very enjoyable. But again, it's a little variation of theme. The client was great. They loved it, and off it went. And these are some little thumbnail sketches for a park series. If I can get these in vertically, I just got to take them bit by bit. Here's a little, some overviews, some site plan studies about the residential and park areas for a park in the Dayton area. This is a neighborhood park. This was actually the actual gathering center here. This is a neighborhood system here. Let's put this in place. Little neighborhood park area here where everybody kind of gathers in the central area. And then this is a water feature area. And just the edge park where all of a sudden they've got this little lagoon piece that everybody can go in and picnic or have particular doctors, and just put them all together. Just really interesting little themes. These are real fast little sketches to send out to the client to let them say, hey, is this the character you're after? Is this what you're looking for? Notice a lot of foliage and very, very delicate going through the process of getting some of the textures put together. So that was that guy. Again, for the Dexton area, let's go back and switch over here. This is a little housing piece, a very rapid little marker sketch and some pencil sketch of a residence for a lake house series in Missouri. They came to me with, for example, they've got this little housing, not this, a small housing development project they were doing out this lake out in the Missouri area, and I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Branson area. And the client came to me and said, we needed a whole series of little thumbnail sketches of what these houses might look like in front of the lake, with little speedboats and some of the environment. So that was part of that process for that project. This was done for Costco out in Arizona. They came to me, the Costco group said, we've got this portable little paint system we're going to work with out, in our marketplace up in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. But we need a concept sketch of the fuel station and the little paint center that would kind of go adjacent to it. So I sent this little sketch out after a series of thumbnail sketches, and off it went, was built. So again, variety is great. Just a lot of fun to work with. This was done for MI Homes. I think this MI Homes, I think it was in Cincinnati, and also Louisville, where they had a series of duplexes and housing and the like, and they just wanted a simple series of things. I got the footprint, the plan view drawings, the elevations, and they had no idea of what it might look like. So I just took those elevation studies, plan view drawings, and converted them to some thumbnail sketches for them to evaluate and send out to their clients, and in their marketing brochure, and it went very well. So again, interesting stuff. How it all came together. Just a little bit of a different view, different facade than this one, but the variation on theme. But they were happy with the content, and again, got the development built, and there it was. This is an interesting project that was done here. Oh, pardon me. I'll reach back here for a second. This is an interesting program that was done here for a racing development technical center, technical center up in the Marysville area. Marysville, not in Ohio. I think it was out in, I believe it was Wyoming. Anyway, complex was such where obviously they wanted a racetrack. They had grandstands, like a drag strip area, and a feature area like a little go-kart track. This is a plan view study what the site might look like. And then into the overview of the perspective and a little bit of a detail of coming around that number 4 turn in front of the grandstands. So again, just an overview of putting 3 views into one and selling the program to the client, and it was just really well done, well received. So there we are. This is interesting. I want to show you how we started this whole process here, and not wrapping some things up here, but just kind of going back to square one. We opened up a little bit of a perspective study. I wanted to show you, for example, I take that they never built this. It's hopefully still in the plans. Let's put it that way, Shadow. This track system still might be it's changed its character quite a bit. It's gone from an overview, basic track system to a Spark system now, where it's an actual technical center. They're going to have a track facility there, hopefully. So we'll keep you posted if this thing opens up. But to my knowledge, it's still really interesting to see how it all goes together. So we're hoping that it'll come together. And I think a vote's going to be held about another month or so about what the process might look like. Then we can go from there. The perspective, it really does. And this was used. They took this sketch, and really was interesting. They took this sketch and blew it up about to about maybe about a 6-foot by 20-foot area. A big, huge blow up that made the presentation to the board of directors. So it's kind of neat to see that on television when they made that presentation. So there we are. That's Guy. Let's go back to this. Again, I was contracted by a developer here in town to start doing some conceptual work for a new hotel. So I started up just when I got the details. The first floor was entry area. The second floor was like a lobby area. So we went together and put together this series of sketches. So I started out with a basic thumbnail sketch about the sidewalls and then hallways down up to elevators, the entryway coming up to the second level, seating area. This is interesting back here. He started out with a whole series of almost like cascading walls. He wanted this living garden back here. Notice this little round areas represent some trees and so forth, and some other things that we want to go back into the area. So that was a line study. So from that line study, we went from that into this, a little more of a perspective, kind of cleaning things up a little bit and getting it all together in terms of here's the entryway, and here's the hallway down to the hallway. No, it's a little bit of a design change too from this. Pardon me, I'll go back to this for a moment. Notice how this wall stayed relatively flat and into the actual back wall itself, and then that changed. Let's do this. Oh, we can't fit it in there. That changed, that sidewall changed from that into a lot of hallway areas and a very large message board back here with some moment. So this is the line drawing we submitted on that second floor piece, and from that we developed this, the final sketch rendering of the actual piece itself coming together. There's the actual finished piece. Very dramatic lighting, very dramatic different roof system, a lot of video board here, a lot of retail on this side, and again, hallway down to the elevators, and retail here, and then the big, huge, what they call like a millennial step, just coming right up through the whole process, and just really neat material. So, here we've got a question. Great. Oh, thanks very much, Watts. It's not great stuff, just a lot of hard work, and you'll be doing this in a very short period of time. This has just been a lot of fun. But I think the process, the reason for being in the stream today about this whole thing about architecture, landscape, and interior space is to show how the process works for us. It's not a matter of just hoping it will all work. There's a lot of planning, organizing, processing work, preparation work behind it all. And as you well know, once it doesn't happen overnight. So, final rendering study for the second floor area, the lobby area in the hotel. Then we went back to square one, back to the down below here. If you see the stairwell goes downhill to the first floor, the entry level, street level, and that now began to look like this. Did a line study of coming into the main entry, retail, and then there's a millennial stairway going up to the second floor, and then retail down below. So this is the line study we did for that entry area off of street level, and that came about there and then moved into this. There's the actual final color study here. Notice again that the process changes here just a bit. A lot of marker, and it's just up in here is a great technique. That's that dry pastel look. You can do some great stuff with that approach as a medium because it's so flexible, and it can be erased, and you can change tone. So it's just a great process to work with. So there's the entry level piece as you come in. Some of the scale and so forth, some of the floor graphics, a lot of wooden tile, a lot of texture changes in it. Over here like a coffee shop. And then some of the pillar work going into office space behind the coffee shop. Upstairs, this second level here is where that first sketch was that we showed you, the lobby area. So that was done for that area, and that's the entry level piece. Then we went back outside a little bit, and interesting thing. So we need some interesting character for the outside of the building itself. Maybe a different tower approach. Maybe it's just a nice big, almost like a retro 30s. What do you call it? A theater tower, where you've got the actual lighting system for the actual name of the piece itself. And these neon pieces that were kind of slices inside that blade design piece to get into the actual building. This is the first level. This is all up to here was all parking, and then from there was all residential. This is all these first two levels. That's where the coffee shop was. Here's where the actual lobby was. And the actual entryway, we went this very large message board that wrapped around the actual, and then putting a bit of scale with automobile stuff in. So that was a line study we put together for it. Then we went to these. That's the actual finished piece. Looking back into a little bit of the architecture around the actual facility itself, then reflecting these guys back into the building. There's a little offset for the residential pieces start, and again, this is all parking garage, and this is the actual second entry lobby area. And then the actual, and then outdoor dining area, a couple little vehicles to give it a bit of scale. So that was the actual transition from pencil to final sketch. Then it went from that to this. Then the last little study here we did was a little like a blade study. I'm going to get it all on there, but see, there's the actual message board itself, a little bit of a detail on the lower level. And again, some of the entry people, for example, the outdoor dining area down here, a little bit of a vehicle to give it some scale. And then the rest of that piece is kind of bring it in here. And there it is. That's what that tower. These are neat looking pieces here. These are all steel plates that kind of pierce this actual glass piece here, and then they had neon on it, so kind of at night it just kind of changed color. So that's basically what I wanted to walk through today in terms of putting together the pieces. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, again, I'm grateful for the span of, and this is just a portion of, I just pulled out for the last day or so. I just worked on, let me get these back together here. I just spent a lot of time the last few days just going through my portfolios, trying to find some pieces of work that would make a sense of this whole process. I'm going to kind of get these organized for a moment here. Pardon me, folks. Get these all back in some sense of order. And if you have any questions or you have any comments to make, I'll field a few here before we kind of wrap things up. And for future reference, what I want to do in time to come is take some of this stuff and begin to take a program and maybe a hypothetical piece and do some architectural sketch work around it so you can see how it starts and how it all ends up with some rendering work. So if you have any comments or things you want to add to that, I'd love to hear from you in terms of how I'd like to see that all come together. So there's a little start here for, it's an open forum. Yeah, it really is. It's just very much of an open forum. I'm going to gather all these sketches back together again. And I think it all begins, for example, with just doing some really neat stuff with perspective. And if I have a moment here, let me just show you something really quickly here. This is where we started, in the perspective. Again, it all begins with this stuff right here. And you cannot deny the fact that there's a lot of power in that, just interesting stuff. Seems the bot isn't running. How about that? Also join the Discord for offline discussion. Oh, okay. So there we are. There it is there. That's it. But I think just for a moment, for what it's worth, let me just try something here for a second. What if we did this? just came back in and looked at something in this area here. We just got a couple minutes. I just want to show, for example, what might take place. Once you get that horizon line down, let's just kind of do a little sketch here. Once that goes into play, you begin to set up a drive line here. This is where I'm going to go. You begin to pick up certain things in this thing. You just start to pick up a piece of sculpture. So I'm using the side of the pencil just to get a sense of scale, and just interesting how it is. Just go through it, come back into this. let me stop right there. A quick little thumbnail sketch on how that whole thing of perspective really works. I hope that, is everybody there? Is still tuned in? Hope that helps a little bit here. Just a little thumbnail sketch on how the whole process begins to work in terms of perspective and what to work with in terms of putting together a really interesting little sketch. Maybe we can move this over so we can see that sketch a little more. Just tuned in. There you go. What do you think, gang? That's just another little exercise at the end here about how we begin to set these sketches up in terms of doing little thumbnail sketches for just some architectural flavor. And as I said, that sketch, that little thumbnail, that little pencil sketch I just did is a product of understanding how to work with this stuff right here. I mean, this whole idea. If I were to put this back in the frame here, this is my leading edge. My drive lines go back in perspective, and I begin to build the building out of that. You make it look so easy. No, it's not so easy, Quants. Believe me, it's a lot of hard work, and you know that from your experience as well. It's a matter of just going through making a lot of mistakes and just developing certain shapes and sketches and form and the like. And I really encourage you to stay with it, and don't be discouraged by the fact that some days you have some days you feel like the whole world's a tuxedo, and some days you feel like you're a pair of brown shoes. So it's different. It just changes quite a bit. But I'm just glad we had a chance to chat with you today, and you've stayed on tune here. And again, I want to work with you as best we can. Hope we'll see you more as we go through the process here. But thank you. I really enjoyed this session today. I hope you have as well. That we just pull back a little bit from the drawing cycle, other than this little final piece here about the importance of putting together the process that produces the product, and then seeing what the whole exciting world of architecture and interior space and landscape work can do. Just really interesting. It all begins to unfold here. So this has been a really good, this has been beneficial for me to bring me back to remembrance of the fact that it takes a lot of discipline, and I really love to do this work. I'll be doing some different things throughout the course of the next year. I'm going to start moving, once we get things lined up. I've got my Cintiq in here. We might start doing some digital stuff. Some really interesting, cool stuff to work with, some automotive work, some product work will change all the time. But if you have any requests, please, I really would appreciate it. Drop me a note at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. If you have some things you want to look at or interesting to see being done, if I could help you, if I'm capable of doing so, I'd be glad to do so. And again, if you have a moment too, so pass it along. I'd love to have some more. I'd love to build my audience here on Twitch. And thank you so much for tuning in and subscribing. I really greatly appreciate it. And if you don't mind, pass the word along to your friends and so forth in the industry and the actual design work that you're in, and maybe hope to join us as well. And if you have a moment, please take a look at drcontrast.com as well. Thanks, Shadow. That's where my drawing program is. I go through a series of 9 lesson plans and go through the whole process of from the basic perspective all the way through to shape and form. It's it's 9 lessons. It's on my website at drcontrast.com. Love to have you take a look at that. And again, more importantly, I'm really pleased you're on board today. Thank you for your time. Always who's altered Untitled Proton. Oh, thank you. Untitled Proton. How about that? The new guest. Welcome, Untitled Proton. Thanks for taking the time here, gang. Any commentary, please pass along the word information to my website. Pardon me. Email address at jim@drcontrast.com. And really interesting. Love the lurkers. That's great stuff, gang. So hope this has been exciting for you and encouraging for you, as it was for me to go through it again. I've been very fortunate to work with some great people over the years. I just want to share some things about the landscape work. This coming Thursday, I was planning on going to a stream, but I've got some appointments I have to take care of. I can't avoid them. The input would be great, so please forgive me. I won't be able to come back alive again until next Tuesday, a week from today, but we'll try to sneak some things in and do some interesting things, and hopefully in the meantime we'll get some feedback from the people in the audience to kind of see what they want to do and what they want to tackle. So really appreciate it, gang. Really, very interesting things. So thank you again for your time. It's been a real honor, and always is for me, and I really appreciate the new members coming on board. I'll be posting this guy up on YouTube as well once we're all said and done. So once again, in closing, jim@drcontrast.com. Visit my website, drcontrast.com. Hopefully help me build the audience. This is exciting for me to do. I'm really honored to be a part of this process. And last but not least, never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Great stuff, gang. All the very best. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.